Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Good afternoon. My name is Donald Welch, author of the book, The Love I Thought I Knew. And today is, Tuesday, January 30th. Man, January 30th. We're almost in February. But before I get started, I would like to take this moment and play my profile video of my upcoming books and stuff like that. Okay, actually, let me get a little light here. Okay, again, welcome. And like I said, again, I'm Donald Welch, author of the book Love I Thought I Knew. And what I'm basically going to cover is I probably give a little, kickback on the love I thought I knew for the past few days that I was going over. And, I had promised that I was going to go over some of my other books. So, like I said, just to recap, just real quick, Love I Thought I Knew. I know I showed the cover, and actually with the book being published, this is the cover that you see every time that you go on the site, and you'll see that the images pretty much speak for itself on The Love I Thought I Knew, right? And of course, with all my books, I always have a message on the back of it. For this one, love is the most critical element in a committed relationship. Without it, the foundation would chip away. So kind of give you, there's an image I have up there, and this paragraph right here, this is such a true statement. So it's one of them things where you want to stick to your morals, especially when it comes to talking about love. Let's see, Ethan, day 9, good day. No, it's nice to be back. Yes, it is. Thanks a lot, Ethan. I'm glad that you're able to join us. Okay. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to, like I said, go back and forth with some of my other books, kind of share just a little clip of what's in my other books, and then discuss some of the topics that we have been discussing. Because when we're talking about love, like I was saying before previously, hey, how you doing, Tim? So when we're talking about love, like I said, that's one of the touchiest subjects in America, it seems like, but not just America, but all over the world. Because like I said, when people love, you have different types of love, and then like I said, people are deeply in love, they love hard, or whatever term you want to use, but at the same time, it means the same thing. So, but before I get deep into that, so let me just again go over a quick go over these books that I've written also real quick. Right here, Drinking from a Tainted Fountain, which was my first book after I retired out of the military. And, in the back, I got a saying back there, 30 years strong. Long journey, I walked it. Drama, I dealt with it. Discrimination, I faced it. Serving the country, I achieved it. Blood, sweat, and tears, I gave it. Okay. The book that I have following after that, Alliances versus Collusions, which is pretty much the I could say part two to that. Sometimes silence is the best weapon. Sometimes it's best that you listen and stay quiet so you can figure out your next strategic plan. And on the back of that, right here, it say, live your life and love yourself. Only you can control you. And that is such a true statement, because when I was talking about love, I thought I knew previously in the prior sessions, it's all about how can, the definition of love in itself. Okay. But in order for you to be able to love, you got to love yourself. So just like I say on the back of this book, only you can control you, love yourself. Without self-love, you don't have the capability of loving. And if you have anybody out there that can be capable of loving and not loving themselves, please introduce them to the world, because I would like to ask questions on that. So my next book here, Schooling Challenges of a Military Dependent. And this one I dedicated to my youngest son, which is 13 now. Younger in his life, I was moving around in my career pretty much. It's one of the challenges that I know that he had to deal with, just, watching and observing. He's, getting out here into the world, going, getting into, we talk from a young kid to the time that they're at that age that they can, go to school. So you got, like, we had him in pre-K, to kindergarten, and then, like, say, he had to change schools, not because I had to move, because going from pre-K to kindergarten, they have other schools where, you had the first grade, second grade, third grade, and stuff like that. The good thing I could say was from pre-K to second grade, he was pretty much in the same vicinity. Pre-K and kindergarten, he was in the same school. Then he had to change school first, second grade, and then right after that, we had to, we had to relocate again. Then he third grade, and then it was close to the time for me to retire. So going from the third grade to the fourth grade, we relocated where I am currently now retired, living in Raleigh, North Carolina. So for the most part, it was also difficult because it was during the time of the COVID era, as I was departing out of the military. Let's see. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I've been well. Hope you've been well as well. Staying safe and staying out of this cold weather. First we had a heat wave, went from 20-degree weather to 70-degree weather. Now we, kind of balancing back between, 30 and 50. So, I take what I can get, but I mean, we don't have no snow, and I mean, I'm from Cincinnati, so I'm used to it, but I'd rather not have it, And for the most part, being out there on the road, it's, good that I'm around people and they can drive in the conditions we have versus the challenges they will have with snow. Let's see. Bam said, how does your book capture the nuances of everyday life, making it relatable to a broad audience? One thing that I've learned, like when we talking to say the subject about love, which is one of the, I could say, most sensitive topics that you could talk about, because everybody has their level of love, and then, like, say, everybody loves different. Now, my level of love, and then you go to another household, their level of love could be something different. The one thing that I've experienced is, and when we're talking about levels of love, I've seen levels of affection where, if I wasn't at home and I was abroad, where, like, you go overseas, let's just say places like, Saudi Arabia or one of those places over there, their levels of love, the culture is, definitely different. It was, we were told that, you couldn't show affection out, in public. You had to do that in private. If you showed affection in public, you were probably punished. I don't know what, the level of laws were over there, but, I could say it was a culture shock to me, because, holding hands over, in your homeland, it's like, when you go somewhere else and you can't even hold hands, that's considered a sin against the law, or no. It was one of them things where you have to open your mind to, okay, how do you love? Is the way you love and the way you show love better than the way the next person shows it, or, any type of affection that's displayed? So it's, it's give or take, so if you used to doing something in one area, and then when you go to another area, you have to change that. Now there's many more steps that you're going to have to learn how to love somebody. And it's like when if it's embedded in you to say, well, this is the way I was taught, this is the way I'm going to do it. And then now you have to go somewhere and you have to adjust that. That's a challenge in itself. Like I said, just love itself is hard. So just think if you had to change, your way of, loving somebody because you're in a different atmosphere. So, I mean, we got challenges every day. So it's a case by case basis, I would say, because, one minute you can love somebody unconditionally, the next minute you could like, I can't stand this person right now. And it could be because of, waking up on the wrong side of the bed, having an attitude, not saying that you don't love that person, you just don't like them at that moment. So, I mean, like I said, every day is a challenge, and also every day is a learning experience. So, um, let's see, I'm gonna go this next book I got right here. Let's see, Had My Unhappiness Down. This was the first book. This was book number 4, but this was the first book that I started writing as a play. My first 3 books were actual books. And then when I got into the interest of writing plays, I wanted to give something else, a shot to see how I can flow with this. And actually, I started liking writing plays because for the simple fact that plays are dialogue. So it's like you're having a conversation with somebody and you can follow the conversation. And the one thing that catches people attention is conversation. You know, I've never seen, a book just catch people attention unless you just look and say, hey, I got to read that book. But anytime that you can walk down the street and hear a conversation and know what somebody's talking about. Either you're just going to keep walking and, okay, you heard it, or depending on who it is, you may jump into the conversation and here it is now. You have a consistent flow of dialogue. So that's why writing plays, I'm stuck on that right now. I'm not saying that I'll never write another book, but I am stuck on that. Let's see. What is a military dependent? Bruce asks. Military dependent is, so with me being in the military, any kids or anybody, well, when you're in the military and if you're married and if you have kids, they are your dependents. So that's why when I wrote that book, School and Challenge of a Military Dependent, it was pretty much something to open, people that's thinking about joining the military, or let's just say you're brand new in the military. You got to think that your dependents are going to have challenges because the military is not just a normal job. You get up, you go to your 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, come home. Now, depending on, what your unit assignment is, it makes it seem like that it's just like a regular job. But the military, you're 24/7. You can get called on duty depending on, your assignment and what the duty is. So, but anytime you hear or see the term military dependent, dependents are, even if you're married, the spouse, wife or husband, they're dependents. But let's just say that, okay, you have a married couple, they get divorced. The kids are still dependents because even though that you may not be with the significant other, kids are still your responsibility. So with the military, it's one of them, it's the package deal. So they, provide you the medical, they provide you, dinner, anything that, medically that your dependents would need, the military provides because, you carry them on your insurance. And, and like I said, to me, it's one of the greatest benefits I could say that I've had. Anytime that my kid had to go to the ER, I didn't have that approval or, I'm waiting for the referral. The concept is still the same, but when you're in the military, it's just, I think me personally, it's just that much easier. Okay, got a comment from Frida Graham. I must say I have encountered that many military dependents. What is it like? Well, I could just say I was never a military dependent, but speaking from the experience of my kids, I can kind of like watch some of the things that they were going through, especially when they get that dose of reality that, oh man, dad is getting ready to deploy. How long is he going to be gone? So they got those questions. How long is he going to be gone? Where are you going? Or is there, one of the, one of the favorite kids, kids going to ask those questions, are you going to be shooting anybody? Are you going to be, you got to be open for the questions for kids. And you just got to be ready for those questions in the way that you answer those questions. It's more or less, yes, we're in the military. Yes, we're serving a purpose. That doesn't mean that we just go out here and kill anybody. It's just about, the liberties that we have out here that we have to, defend and protect. But at the same time, in some of the, I'd say in some of the units that I was in, it was all about, making sure that we provide the securities that, we need in the world. So um, I'm not gonna say that, none of the experiences I had wasn't hostile, because, anything's possible. I mean, you don't even have to be in the military to come across a hostile environment, because hey, military, first thing people think, guns and everything. I mean, just walk down the street, you got people. I mean, look at something when you're watching the news today, you hear about school shootings and stuff like that. I mean, it's really no different. It's really no different. But when you're in the military, yes, you wear that uniform. Yes, you represent, who you're wearing a uniform for. And, and it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's a job, but it's also a lifestyle. A lot of things that I've did that I've picked up in, the habits and the, the routines I've picked up in the military, I still use to this day. So, I mean, when it comes to, it's like I'm like an automatic alarm clock. It's instilled in me to wake up early. I don't even have to have a purpose to wake up early, but it's just one of the things that, when you go through boot camp, and I'm pretty sure that anybody that's been in the military, been through boot camp, they remember the days of, them waking you up with the garbage cans and stuff like that. So I mean, that kind of carries on with you throughout your life. So, and at the end of the day, it was a, mind over matter, and it also taught you how to, put your priorities in line, and then, first and foremost, discipline. Okay. So well, jump back in this real quick. So like I said, Hide My Unhappiness, like I said, that was the first play that I wrote. Pretty much same thing. You have a wife and, husband, and they live in, these are the things that you see in life every day. Whether it be the wife that's having a problem because she's trying to please the husband, and she's also trying to please the family. I mean, and you also find guys like that. He tries to please the family, he tries to please the wife. Somebody's going to be disappointed in the midst of all of this, because now you got the main individual trying to please both sides, when actually the priority is to please the one that you obligated to. You walk that out with. You cleave onto your spouse. When you forsake your family, cleave onto your spouse. I'm pretty sure people have heard that, and I get it. Like I said, if you and your spouse can come to an understanding, especially if a family member needs help, you still got to set those ground rules. What you're willing to help with and stuff like that, and what lines you won't cross. But it also goes back to having that clear, concise communication with each other, because as long as the communication is working, the marriage is going to work, no matter what obstacles that you're going to face. Okay. The next book that I have written after that, My Lost Identity. Okay, I'm going to show you real front of that. See My Lost Identity, and I have a picture of a birth certificate, and as you can see, where the names will go, I got unknown, born on unknown date of this year, and whoever the doctor was on duty, unknown, the medical officer, unknown. All right. So what it was, you have a kid that gets, I say, get lost into the system. And when I say lost, because this kid really doesn't have an identity. It's like, yes, he has a name, but he doesn't have an identity. It's like, who do you link him to? There's no record of like biological family and stuff like that. All they do is, if you're in the system, they're making sure that, that, yeah, you're eating, you're well taken care of, making sure that, trying to keep this kid healthy. But at the same time, this kid doesn't really have an identity, because he doesn't have a family. So when you got the foster care systems, you got the adoptions, you got the adoption system, and one day you got these kids that they can see other kids with families, so one day they always dream of having a family. In the case with this kid, he was with a foster family. He had foster brothers, foster sisters, had a foster mom. So it's pretty much he had a family, and that was the family that he knew. And when you're in the system, you have your social workers that, deal with the kids, and, whatever it is they have to go through, whether it be therapy or, anything that they are facing in their lives. And at the same time, when you have these, social workers and people that's in these systems, that's working in these programs, the ideal is to get these kids to a point where life can get better. Just because you don't have your biological family doesn't mean that you can't live a normal life. But if there are challenges in the individual's life, then that's what some of these social workers and occupational therapists, or not occupational, but just therapists in general, that help them along in life. Okay. And then with a particular kid in this story, My Lost Identity, he did get to find out who he was later on in life, but like I said, and that's just a young kid. Let's see, Angela White. Can you provide examples from the book that highlight the authenticity, okay, of the dialogue of portraying relationships realistically? Um, just reflecting back to the love I thought I knew, I'll put it to you like this. I had a close friend that when I wrote this, kind of like based his storyline off of, but at the same time, his storyline was no different than a lot of people that, go through these, challenges in life. When it comes to, like I said, when it comes to love, again, going back to what I was saying, loving yourself first before you can love anybody else. Now, when it comes to, like I said, relationships, before you get to relationships, it's one of them things, one, are you able to communicate with each other? Two, do you have anything in common? Are you learning the things that I will figure that will be key before you can say, I'm starting a relationship? Because, not that you're going to know everything. I mean, you building on getting to that point, to say I'm in a relationship. So when it comes to working on a relationship, I talked about, this scale that you kind of have in place where you're going to do more work, you're going to get less sunshine. So we came up with a scale with the 70 to 30. You got 70% work, 30% sunshine. The goal is when you're in a relationship, you're trying to build that where you can tip the scale because you would like to have more sunshine and less work. Let's see. Parker, have you ever considered writing something more contemporary? Yeah, I mean, it's going to come down the line, as time goes on, that's why I keep a pen and pad with me because I like to write these thoughts down and also, I reach out to some of my colleagues that I know that if they're not writing books, they're doing poetry and stuff like that, where a couple of people have, that I do know have read some of the material I put out there where I can get feedback from them. And, it helps me with my ideas. Like even with the love I thought I knew, I was sharing ideas back and forth with one of my coworkers. So when I wrote this book and I published it, I made sure I sent the dedication out to him because, like I say, he helped me along with some of the ideas. Now, I mean, my thing is, what I do is when people how do you put it? When they have issues, when I do my research, I do my research based on, like statistically, what's going on today. Because, relationships, let's say relationships back in the early 30s, 40s, 50s is way much different than the relationships that we have now. So, like I say, getting on the contemporary side, yes, I do plan on writing something more contemporary. And, as time goes on, that I would definitely work on because I still have to do the research. When you're talking about contemporary, when you're talking about, methodical or whatever it is, it's one of the things that you definitely have to do the research so you can get your information lined up with what the reader is looking for. Okay. Betty, how do you explain to kids why you are gone for so long or for long periods of time? I wish there was a book on that. That's not the easiest task, especially when, you hear, you can be deployed 2 months, you home 2 months or 3 months or however long it is and whatever the assignment calls for. But, one thing that I did when I came back, off like say in one of my deployments, I always explain to them that, that Dad will be doing this again, probably within the next 2-3 months or whatever the case may be. So what we do is we kind of plan what we're going to do in that 2 to 3 months time. And, and I think one of the things that you can do, because it's going to happen. So it's not one of them things that you can get away from unless you actually depart from the military service. But at the same time, you explain to your kids, you keep them engaged that, there are going to be benefits in the long run once this is all said and done. So one thing about my kids, they know, okay, I did all this deploying, I served my time, but I'm retired and I'm happy now. I don't have to do any moving. And here it is, I get a retirement check the rest of my life. So that's, one of the benefits. And then, I still carry on the benefits of the medical side. So that was a benefit. I mean, when you look at some of these things where if you go out there and you try to get insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I mean, extremely expensive. But the one thing I can say the military has benefited us was, they made it extremely affordable. So, but it's just a matter of engaging your kids. That's the way to make it easy. Let's see, Caroline comment. What's the most heartbreaking tour of duty or assignment you have experienced? I think when it comes to heartbreaking, when let's just say you enter to a territory and you're there to assist, humanitarian. Anything that's got to do with natural disaster is one of the most heartbreaking to me, because when you're talking natural disaster, you get to witness, people losing their homes, their livelihood. Um, let's just say one of the things that one of the most, I could say, challenging for me was Hurricane Katrina. I was stationed down in Mississippi at the time, and that was the time New Orleans got hit real bad, and Mississippi was right there. So Mississippi may have not suffered as much as New Orleans did, but Mississippi did suffer quite much. Then, with us doing rescue missions, we got to go out there, we got to look for people, and then, you have like, your older, your elderly people that, they just determined they're not leaving their homes. So one of the challenging things for me was, it's like when we had to go on a search and rescue, looking for people. We hoping that they did leave and evacuate, and then the downside to it is if they didn't evacuate, before you know it, we're pulling bodies, from the rubble and whatever it is it may be. I think one of my worst encounters was when we was pulling an individual that got sucked up under a tugboat, and you're looking and spleen separating, and I mean it's a lot of things. The thing that's hard about it is you live with it. Of course, you have medical professionals that can help you through these things, especially if it affects you badly enough. Sometimes you may not even realize or recognize that it affects you until you have that encounter. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've pulled dead bodies out of rubble, and sometimes I've had dreams about some of these bodies that I pulled. It's like I'm in a dream and I'm talking to the individual of the body I'm pulling, and it's like, I'm having a conversation with somebody I've never met, and it just reflected back. But as time went on, the dream stopped. But at the same time, I've even seek professional help to help me along with this, and then some of the exercises that they have us doing, whereas kind of, okay, you can do one or two things. You can face it, embrace it, or you can run. And it was one of the things that's just the reality. It's a mental note. Like, it's kind of like a camera. You get a snapshot. You take the picture, that image is forever. So kind of like, it's like an internal camera when you see some of the things that you don't, wake up, and it's just like you waking up, you're going to work, you see your colleagues, you clock out and you come home. Now you go into an areas, I mean, I'm at work, but it's like, okay, I'm going to pick up dead bodies. And that's not something that, it's I mean, I can't compare myself to a mortician, somebody that's just used to going to get dead bodies, so that was their job. So going to get, going to find and pick up dead bodies wasn't exactly designed to be my job. But at the same time, when we're on call for one, the community, it's humanitarian. So anything can fall under that umbrella. It's very broad. So, but that, I could say that was one of the most heartbreaking with me, just anytime that I have to react to a natural disaster is heartbreaking. Okay. I know my time's getting close, so I wanted to just real quick, and like I said, the Love I Thought I Knew, of course, that's the one that we're promoting. The one that I published out right after that one was A Dad's Unexpected Battle. So I'll give you a quick glimpse of that, and kind of like when you look at the image, you can kind of put, two and two together. Dad's Unexpected Battle. You got the little girl with the halo over her head. So I can go through a little bit of this, but I know I won't have the time to cover as much as I would love to. But what I would do is, I promise I will get into like the last couple that I showed up on the screen. Say you got tomorrow, which is what, Wednesday. I got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 5 to 5:30, and Friday will be my last session. But I'm looking forward to doing more in the future when they have more storytellers or whatever event they have. But yeah. I give you the phrase that I have on the back of this one is: the ingredient to the stability of a family is love. Once love is gone, the stability is chipped away to nothing. So kind of like when we talking about, like I said, basically when it comes to a number of my books, the one key word that you see in there is love. Okay. Everything is about love, because when I'm writing books, I'm centering it around families. It's a family setting. So with a family setting, there's going to be love. With a family setting, in order for that family to be, a strong bonding family, you're going to need, as we would say, communication. Communication is key to relationships. So the one thing that you're going to always hear me say when we talk about relationships, when we talk about love, the key to success with that is, communication. You got to be firm and concise, because you don't want to lead anybody down the wrong path, making them think or making them perceive that, hey, I'm thinking he or she is saying this. If you're clear and concise with your communication, then you want to make sure that both of y'all have an understanding. Say, hey, this is what I'm saying. This is not what I mean. Okay. All right. I'm sorry I have to end this, but my time has came to an end. I'm glad that I was able to get on, and I want to thank everybody that tuned in. So tomorrow, 5 to 5:30, a dad's unexpected battle. I get a little bit into that. Then my lost identity. These are a couple of books that I want to share some of the insight that I have on. And maybe if I do have a little time, I do not just writing, but I do greeting cards as well, personalized greeting cards. And then, like I said, as the future goes on, I'm looking at more contemporary books. I'm also maybe even thinking about dabbing into poetry and spoken poetry and stuff like that. Okay, y'all have a great day, and thanks for attending. I'll see you tomorrow at 5. Bye bye.